Hi, I'm Jashikins, and welcome to another Game of Thrones Season 8 episode review. Today, we are going to be reviewing. Sorry, there. We will be reviewing the episode The Bells. And I was like, sorry for, accidentally hitting my mic with my hand again. And like, oh, maybe the showrunner should, you know, say I'm sorry for this season, but let's get to this episode. Whenever I write a review, I make it a balance between how much fun I had watching and how well put together the episode was. Objective enough for people to decide if they really want to watch the episode in its entirety, and subjective enough to give my reviews a unique flair. And so when I review something like this episode, the balancing act becomes really hard. It was a more than flawed episode, but I had so much fun watching it. Ever since The Long Night, I've started watching the show like a high budget B movie and found it's fun to watch. So my expectations for this episode were low. From this point on, there will be spoilers. Imagine that, spoilers in an episode review. Part 1, Jaime Lannister's final arc. Jaime Lannister has had an interesting character arc in the show. He started the series off as a dick, and eventually his many layers were exposed. He redeemed himself at the end of season 7 when he finally admitted Cersei was bad for him and left her side. His redemption arc seemed complete when he consummated his affections for Brienne of Tarth. She was the one who believed in him and who he had trusted enough to tell why he had killed the Mad King. Yet, in the same episode they got together, he left for Cersei. So, him getting with Brienne seemed to be for no reason at all. It was like the writers saw that Jaime Brienne was a popular ship, and to please viewers, the two had to get together. The pairing would have worked if not for Jaime returning to Cersei. I could talk about how the Valancourt prophecy was thrown to the wayside, but hey, The Long Night already proved the show doesn't care about prophecies. Plus, that prophecy was a book only one. So, yeah. But what I will talk about is Jaime and Cersei's death scene. I do ship Jaime with Cersei. It's incest, but it is taboo and angst enough that, well, I like it. At the same time, I didn't want it to become in-game since it is highly unhealthy. Really unhealthy, dude. Seeing Cersei crying and Jaime comforting her was more than sweet to me. They exited the world like they entered it, together. Now, if only that scene wasn't marred by Jaime's inconsistent character development. Oh, fuck. I love that scene, but gosh. Anyways, not a fangirl. Part 2, Arya Stark's pointless subplot. When Arya Stark left for King's Landing in last week's episode, it was safe to assume that she wanted to kill Cersei Lannister. Instead, she abandons that plan really quickly. The Hound's final words to her were poetic and hard-hitting, but it doesn't make sense why he would wait to voice this poignant conversation when they were already in a city that was falling apart. Because with Arya in the city, she is, in danger. Inside the episode seems to answer why Arya was in King's Landing this episode. They wanted the destruction to be hard hitting by putting a fan favorite character in danger. The thing is, her plot armor's legendary, so there's no sense of danger for her. Though I admit a few times I thought she had to have died and laughed my butt off when she kept surviving things lesser characters wouldn't. I mean, then like the episode, like they're like dragon fire goes right by her. It's like, fuck. Part 3, Jon Snow's revelation. Jon Snow has been conflicted about his feelings towards Daenerys Targaryen ever since he found out the truth of his heritage. On one hand, he wants to be with his aunt sexually, and on the other hand, his dark upbringing stops him from fulfilling his longing. He still loves and adores her. He will never stop calling Daenerys his queen. Last episode, he had to choose between Daenerys and his family. He has always been a family man and chose to disregard her request of, hiding his true lineage. But after Daenerys' wanton destruction of King's Landing, he seems to have changed his mind. He has seen firsthand how destructive she can be, and that scares him. He realizes that the longer she lives, the more atrocities she could commit. And with one action, Daenerys has alienated someone who would have followed her to the end of the world. No. Part 4. The destruction was beautiful. My hopes for the current season are extremely low, so I wasn't expecting much for this week's episode. My only hope was that Daenerys would go mad, or Cersei would destroy the city by wildfire, or both, so that there would be destruction. Not because I hate the people of King's Landing, but because I'm watching this show like a B movie. I need my spectacle since that's the only thing the show has going for it. The destruction was epic, and I adored seeing things from the ground. Seeing all the horror that was consuming the city, and of course, a little girl to tug at the viewer's heartstrings. It was just, I teared up in joy. I could barely speak for the first few minutes. There was destruction caused by Drogon and other destruction caused by wildfire. I'm not sure why the wildfire went off. Maybe the heat from Dragonfire caused it to happen. That's the only logical explanation I can come up with in a season that likes to throw logic to the wind. Okay, let's get ready for part 5. No. I don't know why I make that sound. Anyways, part 5, Daenerys' final turn to villain. I think I've clearly stated my views on how much I wanted Daenerys Targaryen to turn mad. Last week's The Raven Speaks talked about the clues that had foreshadowed her eventual turn. Game of Thrones is a series that focuses on how horrible war is and doesn't reward those that seek power. So I doubt Daenerys will have a happy ending in the books. Maybe it will be similar to her show counterpart in that both will lose themselves to madness. Though I think the books will make her rise to villain more gradual and therefore more fucking awesome. Daenerys is not a cackling villain who wants to do evil. She is merely seeking comfort and power. Power has worked so well in making her feel good that it is what she falls back on. With no friends except for Grey Worm and Drogon, she is feeling very much like a stranger in a strange land. In the north, she saw people connecting with each other, something she doesn't truly understand. Especially the familial love Jon feels for his fellow Starks. To her, the choices are for Westerosi people to feel love or fear for her. Again, Daenerys tries to start a new relationship with Jon because she doesn't care about the reasons for his conflicted feelings. She takes him refusing to bet her as a slight against her. And after he refuses, she tells him that she will choose for people to fear her. While I adore Daenerys more with the cheesy angst, Daenerys taking the final step into madness because someone would have sex with her is what really, like, I've read like one or few of my friends like I hate this. I was like, it's so fucking stupid. How can you hate this shit? That's like the turning point. That was the turning point. That's what fuck. That's what made her mad, I guess. Oh my god, how good is John's sex game if the possibility of never fucking him again sends you mad? Like, wow, really? 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 Like that was a turn. Fuck. The moment the bells rang, she was tearing up and started to rain terror down onto the city. But just because she's feeling sad doesn't mean she gets a free pass for her actions. Okay, as I had to make a short review, I did leave some things out. Feel free to comment about anything I didn't mention. No, it's oh good, yeah. As I said, I'm watching this like a B movie, and it just makes it so much better if you just really lower your expectations. It's like, what the fuck's going on anymore? But anyways, please like this video if the spectacle of this episode amused you in some way, shape, or form. Not if you thought this episode was good, but if you thought it was amusing and enjoyable on just like a B movie front. And if you're also on YouTube where you can, like videos, how about you subscribe to my YouTube channel? And you will never miss out on any Game of Thrones content again. I have one more episode of Game of Thrones review, then after that one review will be a season review. And if you're on the YouTubes, comment below. Let's, start a conversation up about this episode. What did you think? What did you like? What did you not like? And of course, point out things I didn't mention in this episode. Didn't mention in this video. And if you're watching on my Bloggity blog and watching on the desktop version of my Bloggity blog, please choose the follow by email option so you will never again miss a blog post by me. I just don't do these lovely episode reviews. As I said, do season reviews sometimes for some shows. I also do long posts about different subjects. I also have fan fictions up there. And every month, I have a Flight Rising giveaway and a Dragon Cave giveaway. So if you're a member of those sites, yay. Yeah, and oh yeah, I believe if you're on the YouTube's link in the description to my Patreon, and if you're watching this on the desktop version of my Bloggity blog, up on the sidebar thingamajig is a link to my Patreon. And I might do a Game of Thrones or retrospective, just sort of looking back on the series, and I'll try to get some of my friends to to talk to and reminisce about better seasons. But the thing is, I will only do it if at least 10 people are donating to my Patreon. The thing is, it's going to be a bonus thing, but Game of Thrones is so popular. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. But yeah. So if you do like my discussions on Game of Thrones and would like a longer episode discussing the series as a whole, and you have the money, donate to my Patreon. I'm poor and need love. I'm sorry, I never know how to properly ask for things like this. It's really awkward for me because my usual go-to is, oh, don't worry about it with money. So yeah, I always feel guilty. So if these little self-promos come up as really awkward, yeah, they are awkward for me. But anyways, and yes, the next review of a Game of Thrones Season 8 episode will be next week, and it will be the final episode of the series. I really wish that the series was ending on a high note, but I'm just so glad it's over. Like, it being a shortened season now seems like a blessing. Like, now there's less bullshit to go through. So, see you next week.